The truth about Kosuke Nozaki's wealth and the great life he had until he married this woman, known as the Don Juan of Kishu. Kosuke Nozaki often bragged about spending 3 billion yen, about $27 million, on 4,000 lovers over his lifetime. He targeted young women, flight attendants, and college students who easily fell for offers of quick money. But sometimes, the thing you love most is what brings you down. In 2018, just 3 months after marrying a mysterious 22-year-old named Saki Sudo, Nozaki was found dead in his home at 77. He had been poisoned with a lethal dose of stimulants, and Saki Sudo, Nozaki's much younger new wife, became the main suspect in a shocking crime. But how did he get here? Let's rewind and take a closer look at Nozaki's rise to fame and fortune. It's Japan in the 1950s. A young boy from a poor family has just finished middle school. Instead of continuing his education, he steps into the workforce. This isn't just any boy. This is Kosuke Nozaki, and he would become one of Japan's most notorious millionaires, but not for very noble reasons. His first job was selling condoms door to door. Yeah, you heard that right. Not exactly glamorous, but hey, a job's a job, right? But Nozaki wasn't satisfied with just making ends meet, and definitely not just as the guy who sells condoms. By his 20s, Nozaki had saved enough from his condom sales to start a new venture, money lending in Tokyo. This was his first big break. As Japan's economy boomed in the following decades, so did Nozaki's fortune. He expanded into real estate, liquor distribution, and various other businesses. Nozaki was now raking in the yen, but for him, money wasn't just about having a fat bank account or living in luxury. No, Nozaki had a very specific goal in mind for his wealth. In his own words, "The reason I make money is to date attractive women." He was using his millions to fund his pursuit of beautiful women, and he wasn't shy about it either. In 2016, Nozaki published an autobiography with the eyebrow-raising title, Don Juan of Kishu, the man who gave 3 billion yen to 4,000 beautiful women. In this bestseller, Nozaki laid out his philosophy on life and love in no uncertain terms. He wrote, "When I find a woman of my type, tall and voluptuous, I would tell her, I want to go out with you and have sex with you. I'll give you 400,000 yen, $3,600, if you agree." Now, I know what you're thinking. This guy sounds like a real piece of work, right? But hold on, because this story is about to take some wild turns. Nozaki claimed to have spent a whopping 3 billion yen, that's about $27.5 million, on his pursuit of beautiful women. He even shared his techniques for seducing university students and flight attendants. He didn't care what people thought. He wrote, "Some people may frown at my sense of relationships, but this is exactly why I have been working in various occupations and earning money. Everybody has a different dream. I don't feel guilty about anything." So Nozaki's fame, or infamy, depending on how you look at it, skyrocketed in 2016 when he went public with a scandalous tale. A 27-year-old woman he'd been involved with had allegedly stolen about $550,000 worth of money and goods from him. But instead of keeping it quiet, Nozaki took to the airwaves, appearing on TV to share his story. You'd think this might have made him more cautious, right? Nope. If anything, it seemed to fuel his appetite for romance even more. He doubled down on his pursuit of young, beautiful women, earning himself the nickname Don Juan of Kishu, Kishu being the region where he lived. Even as Nozaki was living it up as Japan's most famous sugar daddy, there were hints that all wasn't as rosy as it seemed. Nozaki was searching for something more, and in the autumn of 2017, he thought he'd found it. That's when he met Saki Sudo, a 22-year-old aspiring model, though some sources say she had a past in the adult entertainment industry. Anyway, Nozaki, ever the romantic, or so he thought, claimed he deliberately tripped at Tokyo's Haneda Airport, hoping the beautiful young woman would come to his aid. Whether it was a genuine meet-cute or a calculated move, it worked. Nozaki was smitten. At this time, he was a 77-year-old tycoon, falling head over heels for a woman 55 years his junior. And when I say he fell for her, I mean it. His love was so strong that he offered Sudo a monthly allowance of about $9,000 to marry him. So in February 2018, they both tied the knot. It was Nozaki's third marriage and Sudo's first. In a column he wrote shortly after, Nozaki declared himself certain to be happy, brushing off warnings that Sudo might be interested only in his money. But then, something happened that he never saw coming. Just 3 months after the wedding, on May 24, 2018, Kosuke Nozaki was found dead in his home. He was discovered collapsed on a sofa in his bedroom, with no obvious signs of injury or struggle. At first, everyone thought it was natural causes. I mean, the guy was 77, right? But then the autopsy results came back, and things got weird. They found high levels of an illegal stimulant drug in Nozaki's system, way too high to be accidental. Suddenly, Japan's most famous sugar daddy was at the center of a murder investigation, and all eyes turned to his young widow, Saki Sudo. As the investigation unfolded, things got even stranger. Security camera footage showed that only Sudo and a housekeeper had been in the house in the hours before Nozaki's death. And get this, investigators found that Sudo had been researching stimulant drugs on her smartphone just days before the incident. Yeah, sure. A coincidence. It was also discovered that in the first few months of the marriage, things weren't as perfect in the Japanese Danwan's paradise as expected. The spark had completely faded. Nozaki was furious because his new wife Saki didn't want to live with him in his fancy mansion in Tanabe. Instead, she preferred staying in an apartment in Tokyo, far away from her husband and his love nest, living her life as if she were single, but with his money. Nozaki tried to get a divorce, but Saki wouldn't sign the papers. Then, suddenly, he was found dead in his home. That's when Saki's family discovered their daughter had married the old millionaire. It was quite a scandal for them, too. But despite all this suspicious stuff, the case against Sudo was mostly circumstantial. There were no eyewitnesses, no smoking gun. For nearly 3 years, the case remained open but unsolved. During this time, Sudo's behavior became more weird. She kept a low profile, rarely speaking about her late husband. But her social media? That was a different story. It was full of photos showing off expensive vacations and luxury goods. Not exactly the image of a grieving widow, right? Meanwhile, people who knew Sudo started talking. Former classmates said she was secretive about her marriage, but loved to brag about her expensive clothes and newfound wealth. One person told reporters she never mentioned having a job, but boasted about her expensive clothes and said she had plenty of money. The plot thickened in April 2021, just as rumors were swirling that Sudo was planning to skip town for Dubai. The police made their move. They arrested Sudo, now 25, on suspicion of murdering her husband. The arrest made headlines throughout Japan. Here was a man who had lived his life to the fullest, indulging his every desire, only to potentially meet his end at the hands of the very type of woman he had spent his fortune pursuing. It was like something out of a crime novel. Prosecutors said she had poisoned Nozaki with a lethal dose of stimulant drugs, probably mixed into his drink. They pointed to her internet search history as evidence that she had planned it, and suggested that she did it for the money. Under Japanese civil law, Sudo was entitled to half of Nozaki's estate as his widow. However, the exact value of his inheritance was a matter of dispute. Nozaki had stated in his will that he wished to donate 1.3 billion yen, $12 million, to the city of Tanabe, where he had lived, and this generous bequest complicated the division of his assets. But despite all the evidence piling up against her, Sudo insisted she was innocent. She stayed quiet, refusing to talk to the media or make any public statements about the case. Her lawyers kept their lips zipped too, not saying a word about the charges or how they planned to defend her. In the end, the case has gripped Japan, and not just because of its sensational details. It touches on some deep issues in Japanese society. It raises questions about relationships between older men and younger women, the power dynamics when there's a big wealth gap, and the dark side of Japan's hostess culture. In a society that has traditionally valued modesty and discretion, Nozaki's flashy lifestyle and open discussion of his sexual conquests were a radical departure from the norm. Here was a guy who had it all: money, fame, and a seemingly endless parade of beautiful women. Yet in the end, his pursuit of pleasure may have led to his downfall. As much as we'd like to wrap this up, there are still some questions left to answer. For example, how did she allegedly get the drugs used to poison Nozaki? Were other people involved in the plot? And perhaps most intriguingly, what was really going on in her relationship with Nozaki? Was she, as some have suggested, a cold-hearted gold digger who saw Nozaki as an easy target? Or was there genuine affection between them, albeit complicated by their huge age difference and very different life experiences? We may never know the full truth, but the story of Kosuke Nozaki and Saki Sudo has everything: romance, crime, social commentary, all set against the backdrop of Japan's complex relationship with wealth and power. And whether you admire Nozaki's choices or condemn them, there's no denying that he lived his dream to the fullest, right up until its dramatic and untimely end. So what do you think about this wild story? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you found this video interesting, don't forget to like and subscribe for more. Until next time.